Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Jungle Show. Today we are previewing Auburn basketball. It is upon us. We are finally here to Auburn basketball season, and we can't wait. And we cannot wait to talk more and more about it. Today we will be previewing all the Auburn positions and predicting our starting lineup, and previewing next week's exhibition game against University of Alabama at Huntsville. All that and more next on the Jungle Show. Welcome back again to another edition of the Jungle Show. Today we are back to talk more Auburn basketball, just like we do 52 weeks out of the year on Auburn Dailies, YouTube, and Twitch live stream. Cannot wait to start basketball season. And I know the person across from me is as excited to do so as well. And I brought in my dad and co-host again. Dad, it's basketball time. It's time. We're finally here.
It's basketball season.
Yes.
We actually have a preseason game next week, exhibition game next week.
We get to talk about Auburn basketball coming up soon.
This is the last week that we've had to come up with material so that we could get us to the point where, hey, next week we're actually going to talk about games. We did get to talk about games a little bit when they were in Israel, but man, it's good to have
it's exciting.
Basketball to talk about.
No kidding. I'm super excited to finally get back. We started this going live on Auburn Daily right as the offseason hit. So we had to talk, we were talking about the draft a lot. We were talking about transfers and recruits. We were talking about, obviously, what he mentioned, the Israel tournaments. But now we're here. We're finally here. And next week we have basketball to talk about. Yes, it is an exhibition game against UAH, but it's basketball.
Don't care.
We're here. We're here.
We
don't have to worry about caring about football too much now. All right. Yeah. So to start the show, I want to go through each position.
Okay.
Point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. And I'll tell you who's in the running for each position as of right now.
Okay.
Obviously, Chance Westry is not in the running for any of the positions right now. I think he could be a 1, 2, or 3, obviously, and it would have been interesting if he was healthy to try and figure out which one that was. But we're going to leave him. We're going to leave him out because he's injured. He probably won't play until a few games into the season, and we're not trying to rush him back against somebody like George Mason or Winthrop or somebody like that.
No.
But so we'll leave Chance out, but we'll talk about all of the other ones. So I want to start off. Obviously, we'll start off with point guard.
First, say hey to.
Oh yeah, Hotman's back. Gotta love him. I enjoy him all the time. War Eagle. Yes. Good evening. But we will go ahead and start going into this. So talking about the point guard position, I think you've got. I think we'll put 3 guys in the listing for now.
Okay.
But I'm going to put one of the guys in there also at another position. I know you already know who I'm talking about. Yep. But obviously the point guard position, I want Wendell.
Yep.
I want Trey Donaldson.
Okay. And
I want Zeb Jasper.
Okay.
So obviously those are the 3 true point guards on the team. I think just like I said just a second ago, I think Zeb could be in the running to play 2, just because I think Wendell is the point guard right now. I think Trey, it could be hard for him to see minutes, especially when Westry comes back, because I think Westry's that point guard number 2 off the bench. If he's not, in the starting lineup instead of somebody like Flanagan or KD. But who's the guy here? Who's the guy at number 1?
So the number 1 is Wendell. He'll start at point guard. He's PG1. He got a little messed up. Something got in his eye, or he scratched the cornea of his eye in the game against UAB the other day.
Yeah.
So he didn't play a whole lot in that game, but he's, in my opinion, he's definitely point guard number one.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think Zepp could and will play a lot of point guard. I think when you mentioned Chance, when he comes back, he can play the point. These early games are a good chance for Trey to kind of step up. If you look back at the stats that somebody threw out there from the game against UAB that we won, apparently Trey had a really good game.
Yeah.
And he's been practicing, from everything I've heard, and playing really well in practice. So maybe he plays more than we thought. But I think that's your order. I think Wendell. I don't think there's any doubt that Wendell is. When Bruce Pearl said, "I've got one starter slotted,"
I think
and the rest are up for grabs. I think Wendell's the one starter he's talking about, and the team seems to just play better when he's on the floor.
Yeah.
He can get to the middle. He's a good passer. He's a willing passer. He can be a good outside shooter. And we need a good outside shooter, but he's that guy on the floor that can get them in their sets. And he's a good defender. So he's PG1.
100%.
In my opinion.
So yeah. I completely agree. I think Wendell's the starter. I think he's the guy, and I do agree with when Bruce said that he had one starter already slotted. I think it was Wendell. Obviously, he wasn't going to say that, but I do agree. So, but talking about for the backup, I think when Chance gets healthy, obviously not trying to push him too early, because I think Trey could come in and play great. He played great in the UAB scrimmage that they did, but I think Chance is that backup point guard with, if something goes horribly wrong, you could obviously slide somebody like Zepp there as well. But moving on to shooting guard, and this is where I want to talk a little bit more about Zepp Jasper.
Hang on, one more thing real quick. I'm sorry. Okay. I pulled up the stats from the UAB scrimmage that we won by 14. Trey Donaldson played 15 and a half minutes. He had 11 points and 4 assists, only 1 turnover, 2 steals.
It's getting after it.
If he's the lowest level of our point guard run,
I think we're okay. Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good level to be at. And he's a kid that's got that football mentality, not afraid to stick his nose in there. So anyway, but I want to make sure that I'd said he played well. That's pretty much playing well. 11 points, 4 assists, 2 steals.
Of course, yeah. He did. He was great. Moving on to the shooting guard, though, again, this is where I want to talk more about Zepp Jasper, because I think Bruce can find a way to slide Zepp to the 2 to keep him on the floor while Wendell's on the floor. A lot last year was either Zepp and KD, or it was Wendell and KD, or it was maybe Devin was in there, or Allen was in there with a bigger group. But I think having Wendell and Zepp, well, that's true 2 point guards, but you've got to put Zepp into a role where he knows he's got the green light to shoot from outside. Put him into the Bryce Brown, Samir Dowdy type of role where he can bring it up the floor if he needs to. He can control the handle if he needs to. He can control the offense if he needed to, and let Wendell kind of play the 2. Yep. But have the green light, let it fly, and knock down 3-pointers. What about you?
I think Zepp is look, this is a little tougher position because I think the candidates are a little not stronger. I think Zepp and KD are your 2 candidates at the 2 guard.
Yeah.
And both of them provide different things. Zepp went 2 of 4 from 3 the other night against UAB in that close scrimmage. 50% shooting from 3. I'd take that all the time from our 2 guard. So I think you're right. If you're playing Zepp with Wendell and Wendell's hot from outside, you just move Zepp to 1 and move Wendell over to 2.
I 100% agree. Yeah.
I think Zepp is he's the old man of the team. He's the guy that can be the leader. He's a great defender, possibly one of the best in the country.
He was a redshirt freshman the year that we played College of Charleston in the tournament, the year before the Final Four
run. Yeah.
It just shows how much older that guy is.
Yes. So he's mature. I think that's why he started a lot last year at the 1 is Bruce liked his maturity, and now he's got the maturity even more. And if he's playing the 2 and he's got the green light, I think that's where you start. I think you start him at 2, and then you bring KD off the bench with that second unit, and all of a sudden you've got a guy in the second coming in off the bench who provides an extra boost of energy, especially if you bring him in with Cardwell off the bench.
I was about to say that.
Then it erupts, and they can go stronger and faster. KD provides something different on the defensive end than Zep. Zep's a good on-the-ball defender. KD's a good guy at reading the offense and stealing the ball.
Yeah.
And if KD will take it to the basket in the beginning and not just settle for outside shots, I think he'll be great. And look, you can play with that lineup during these first few games and kind of toss it back and forth and go, what do we got? What do I want? Do I want the energy from KD to start a game and then bring in the defender and the shooter in Zep? Or do I want how do I want to do that? And Bruce is a master at that sort of thing. So I think that's how I would do it.
I think you'll see a lot of that on Wednesday in the exhibition, and even with George Mason and a few of the other first little games. Just like you said, him moving lineups around, not just at the guard spot, but also the forwards and the big man, like not just seeing who he likes coming off the bench and who he likes starting, but who plays well together, who's got the best
chemistry,
what group has the best chemistry, how do we get those groups together, what's the substitutions like. And that's why we pay a guy like Bruce Pearl and his assistants.
Yeah.
But, I do agree. I think Zep is the starter at that position. I think he'll walk out there first. I think he could play a lot of point guard. And with somebody like KD when Wendell goes to the bench.
Yeah.
And I think we see that a lot. I think you see a lot of Wendell and KD a lot. KD's very good at just like you said, instantly – providing the energy and the defensive success needed to get back in the basketball game. You saw it against Missouri last year at Missouri. You saw it against at Ole Miss when we were down 12 and KD got 3 straight steals and 3 straight layups to get us down 6 going into half. That completely changed that whole game. And we ended up winning that game. We saw it
in person
for
Mississippi State.
Yes, saw it Mississippi State. He had 2 points the whole regulation, had 12 in overtime.
Yeah.
And
you're right. Battle for Atlantis.
Battle for Atlantis, he was absolutely unbelievable. He had like 27 steals in 3 games or something like that. Yeah. And so it is bringing 2 different aspects to the game, and no matter which aspect, the starter will determine is I think leadership. I think Zep takes that, and I think who plays the best with Wendell, who plays the best with their starter. Big guy or
who
forward,
meshes, right.
Who meshes the best? And I don't think it matters, but I think it's Zep.
I would start Zep. I would bring Wendell off. I would bring KD off the bench if it were me. And again, I'm not Bruce Pearl. He will, like you said, figure it out and figure out who meshes the best together, who provides them the best chance to get a good start, and who provides them the best chance of if they're behind or if their starters are not playing real well, who gives them the shot of energy coming in, and like you said, he'll play with it this preseason significantly, I would imagine. So it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on into the forward spots, I think this has gotten a little interesting, especially the 3 position. The 3 position has always been very not odd, but different year by year under Bruce Pearl. Of course, his first few years before he got his recruits in, it had some guys that couldn't play the 3 for him. But then you go get Mustafa Heron, and he was, he's a guy that needed to have the ball in his hands. He was a streaky shooter, He was a good finisher, good defender. Wasn't a pro player because he wasn't big enough, but he was a 5-star.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a fantastic college player.
Really good player.
And he played, and he was great. And then let's see, after that, Samir Dowdy played a lot at 3, and that was that was a little weird. Who else? Malik Dunbar played a lot at 3. I mean,
classic Malik was
Malik
a classic 3. That was his
100%.
driver slasher, could shoot it every once in a while.
Yeah, the rainbow threes that he shot.
Yeah.
No, and it just gets even more weird this year. With Allen being the senior, he's the guy. Obviously, in the COVID year, had averaged like 20 points a game. If we get that Allen back, he's the starter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he starts game 1.
Okay.
I think it's Chris Moore. Because I think it would be Chance Westry.
Yeah.
Because what he provides and the different play style, and I think he could play amazing with guys like Wendell and Zepp. Like, talk about 3 ball handlers on the court. If you have whoever you have at the other 2 spots, at the 5 and the 4. But I think it's Chris Moore because he's the one that's been playing the best in the preseason. Heard unbelievable things about Chris Moore. I talked about it last week when we had some technical difficulties when you couldn't get on the show. I know you were, because we were talking pre-show, that you really wanted to talk about Chris Moore and how well he's been playing in the preseason and in the scrimmages and that sort of thing. If you could allow a guy like Allen coming off the bench, especially, if we get sophomore Allen back, he's the best player on the team. But a guy like Chris Moore stepping up like that is huge, especially with Chance Westry's injury.
So last year the 3 slot didn't give us what we needed.
Well, no.
Alan Flanagan, Devin Cambridge, and the 3 slot hurt us last year. That's a slot that you need scoring out of. I agree with you. I think Chance Westry's the starter if he's healthy.
Yeah.
And he may not end up being the starter by the end of the year, even when he's healthy. But I think going through with the practices and what you've heard from the practices, I agree. Alan Flanagan, I don't understand the concept behind saying that he's forgotten all the skills that he had in basketball. He's still Alan Flanagan. He went through a major surgery last year and came back and just wasn't. I don't think he trusted it yet.
I don't think he trusted it. I also don't think he fit on that team.
He didn't. So
because
hopefully
this
is a better fit
to
for
superstar.
him.
Yeah.
Right. Hopefully this is a better fit for him. But like you said, I probably agree with you. I don't know. Bruce really likes. I think he really likes Allen and what he brings. He had 7 points and 4 boards against UAB, but then you talk about Chris Moore, who in high school he's a 5. I played the 5. Yeah, so he comes to Auburn and he's not going to play the 5 at Auburn because he's 6'6", 6'7", maybe. Yeah. Jumps out of the gym, really good athlete. Takes a little bit of time to learn how to play a guard position.
Yeah.
And in the UAB scrimmage the other night, he had 13 and 10. 13 points, 10 boards. If you get 13
I rest my case
out of him as a starter and that 3 slot, and then you get Allen coming off the bench and he provides 10 and 5 even.
Yeah.
That's 23 and 15 from that slot. I'll take it every night.
And that's without a guy like Chance Westry.
And that's a lot. Not even talking about Chance Westry. Yeah. The thing I want to see is, can Chris Moore guard that 3? Alan Flanagan can guard the 3.
That's very true.
The best defender on ball, one of the best defenders on our team.
Yeah.
So I know he can guard the 3. So I don't know. I go back and forth between Chris and Allen because I remember Allen in 2020. And if that Allen's back, he's like you said, he's the best player on this team.
Yeah.
But if you But if Chris Moore's providing you 13 and 10 against the tournament team in a scrimmage,
he starts.
I don't know. I'm gonna say that Chris Moore starts this first game or two.
Yeah.
And then if Allen is playing well and trusts his health, maybe he does it.
I think it's going to come down to inevitably when a guy like Westry comes back, and if Allen is starting to trust that leg more and starting to look more like himself coming off the bench, I think it's going to depend a lot about all matchups. As you go play Kentucky or Alabama or Tennessee, those 6'10" ball or 6'8" ball handlers at the 3 position, you need Allen Flanagan.
Yeah,
you're going to need Allen Flanagan.
Yeah,
so I don't know. It depends. I want to catch a comment from Dustin. Dustin's my man here, but he says if Chance is healthy, is KD coming off the bench? I think KD and Zepp off the bench would be nasty. I think. Well, look, I love Chance, sticking in with that 2 group. And if you stick him with a guy like Wendell. And then, just like Justin said, have Zepper on the primary point guard off the bench with KD, and you throw Cardwell in there.
Yeah,
I think that would be nasty as well. I don't think he would start at 2 though. I think he would start at the 3 if he was healthy. Because I think Chris Moore starts the first game at the 3 over Flanagan. If Chance was healthy, I think Chance would start.
And look, I think Dustin brings up a good point though, in that. When he's asking about Chance healthy starting at the 2, he could start at the 2. He could start at the 1. He could start at the 3. I think he could play the 4. He needs some bulk, but I think he could play the 4. So that's a guy that we talk about. Jalen Williams being a Swiss Army knife.
Mm-hmm.
Chance Westry's got that ability to be the Swiss Army knife in that he can play any position Bruce needs him to.
Yeah.
He's got good enough ball skills. He can play the point. He's quick enough and long. His arms are like go gadget arms.
He reminds me of Jared Harper was about 6'6" his freshman year, because Jared Harper looked disproportional his freshman year with how long his arms and legs were, but how short he was.
Yeah,
and how high he could jump.
If he was 6'6", he'd still be in the NBA.
Oh, he'd be one of the best players in the NBA.
Yeah.
But moving on from that, because I really want to talk about the power forward position, because I think I don't know how Bruce and his staff is going to handle this, but I think you could go 20-20 minute wise and throw up a coin who starts, because you've got a senior in Jalen Williams, who, just like you said, is the Swiss Army knife. We've been calling him that since forever. He can shoot from the outside. He can guard any position. He rebounds well. He can handle the ball well. He's an incredible basketball IQ. He's one of the smarter players out there.
Mm-hmm.
He makes the right decision. He does what Bruce has asked him to do.
He can shoot the 3.
He can shoot the 3. You need him out there. Okay, you're going to go sit a 5-star who has a chance to be a lottery pick and Yohan Traore on the bench? That's tough. That's tough. I've been going back and forth on that forever, because I think, look, if Zepp starts, you start Traore.
If Zepp starts at the 2,
If
Zepp starts at the 2, you're starting Traore, okay?
Because I think a guy like Traore needs a guard who has been doing it for 40 years like Zepp has.
Help him learn the ropes.
Yeah, 100%. If Zepp is coming off the bench, I think you start Jalen and let Traore come in with Zepp. I think that's the perfect deal, because you want to see Traore with Wendell, because Lord, that could be amazing. But you also just want to see Jalen with Wendell.
So we've got Zepp starting. So you're saying Traore is starting at the 4.
Yeah, I'll say Traore.
Okay, so here's what they did. Again, I'm going to go back to the most recent game that I have.
Yeah, the UAB.
UAB game. So Yohan Traore played 19 and a half minutes, which is about what you said.
Yep.
Had 5 points and 2 boards, 3 turnovers. He struggled a little bit, went 2 of 7 from the field and 0 of 3 from 3.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Williams had 10.6 boards, went 1 of 2 free throw line and 1 of 2 from the 3, went 4 of 9 from the field. Jalen had quite a game against, again, a tournament team.
Yeah. No,
So
it was a tournament. UAB is a tournament team.
And so I'm going to say Jalen because I think Bruce likes the experience that Jalen brings. I think Johan, I keep calling him Johan. Johan is maybe the best player on our team.
Dustin just said he thinks he's the most talented player on the team, and I completely agree. I think he's going to be the best NBA prospect on the team.
Yep.
I think Traore. I mean, it obviously shows with his rank coming out of high school, but
he's unbelievably good.
Yes, yeah, he's going to be hard. I agree. I think by the end of the year, I think Traore starts. I think Traore starts the whole year.
Okay, so you're saying Traore. I'm just to be contrarian, I'll say
of course
that Jalen will start. And I say that because now Bruce at the end of last year we'd just gotten beat by Miami. What did he say? He said, "I'm going to build this team next year around Jalen Williams." Jalen had a great game against Miami, by the way.
Oh my gosh!
So he was the only player that was really playing well. And then he went out and got a 5-star 4-man. And you and I both were like, wait.
Yeah,
he was building the team around Jalen.
No.
But he's bringing this Yeah. So I think either of them could start, and I'd be happy with either of them playing. Like you said, 100%. You split the minutes 20-20.
That's
and
fine.
I'd be perfectly happy with that.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's more about who plays with who.
Yeah.
What guards do you put each guy with? Yeah, 100%. So moving on, and I think this is the exact same way. I think the center position we could do 20-20 as well. And I would say probably 25-15 or 30-10 in favor of Janai until I started hearing things about the inside of the program about preseason of Dylan being the second best player behind Chris Moore. But I'm still going with Janai, especially with what we heard about the UAB scrimmage, what we saw in Israel. He was fantastic. What we saw, obviously, with him at Morehead State last year. I think Janai's the starter. But again, I think you could go 20-20 here. I think that would be just fine.
Here's what you're going to do. You're going to start Janai because he's probably the second best player on the team. He had 19 and 10 in that scrimmage. Played 22 minutes, had 19 points. I'm sorry, 19 and 8 in that scrimmage. You're
starting Janai.
He had 2 assists. You're starting Janai.
Yeah.
And you're starting Zep at the 2. And then you're going out there and you're running the team crazy, the other team crazy, and then they're blowing the TV timeout. And coming out of the huddle after the TV timeout is KD and Dylan. And the arena is going to go nuts because the other team may have changed a few people, but you've brought our 2 Energizer bunnies off the bench at the same time. And Dylan had 3 points in that game, but he had 8 boards.
That's what you want to see from him.
We didn't play great against UAB. We didn't shoot the ball very well. We beat a tournament team by 14. So, but he didn't shoot very well. But some of these guys, like Chris Moore, like Janai Broom, were fantastic. Janai in Israel was against the best team we played, was the best player on the court, except for the NBA guy.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember his name. Plays for Washington.
Denny, yeah. But there's no reason to try and pronounce his last name.
So I don't think there's any question you start Janai. And Bruce said just the other day, he said, we lost Jabari and Walker, and I don't think we could have filled it any better than Traore and Janai. And I said, I completely agree.
But
they're not the same players, but you couldn't have filled those 2 slots any better.
100%.
So
100%. And then you go and change Devin Cambridge into Chance Westry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I'll take that.
I love Devin.
And I'm going to cheer for him at Arizona State. And I'm going to stay up late at night on the weekends and watch them play. Just to watch. I am too. I can stay up late sometime. So I just want to bring up 2 more people. Okay, we've got our starting five: Wynn, Zepp, Chris. You say Trayor, I say Jalen, and Janai.
Yeah.
And then we're going to bring in.
I know where you're going with this.
KD and Dylan.
One, yeah.
And the top's gonna blow off, and then we're gonna not shoot very well, and we're gonna turn to one of the two guys off the bench. I think Lior's gonna play a lot in the preseason. I think he'll get a lot of minutes at the 2, and they're gonna see if he can guard.
He may have been one of our best players when we played at St. Louis last year.
He was one of our best players because they stuck him in the corner. They ran pick and roll. They put Jabari in one corner and Lior in the other corner.
Yeah, they made him choose between Walker or those two. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Lior will get a lot of playing time this preseason. And maybe if he can guard the 2, if he can guard the 2,
he can slide into that.
He could play a little bit in the backup 2 slot. The other one is Chandler.
If Chandler Leopard or Carter Sabrera?
Leopard. Oh, Carter Sabrera. Maybe it's that one.
No, it's Sabrera.
It's Carter. So listening to Hokinson the other day interviewed Stephen Pearl, and Stephen said Sabrera's the best shooter on the team. He doesn't miss. So one of the things that you and I have been talking about this whole offseason is can we shoot better from 3?
Yeah.
Even a little bit.
Yeah.
Even a little bit. And if you could bring in somebody just to give a brief spell for a couple of guys,
get a 3 up or 2. Yeah.
5-6 minutes and run a play where he can get a shot and electrify the crowd and get things going and hit a big 3. Maybe he's
sure KD and Dylan are in there as well.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe he gets some extra minutes, especially early, but maybe you work a way to get him looks. When Green said he's the best shooter he's ever played with. So you've got a guy that's a shooter.
Well, there's a guy that plays for the Houston Rockets right now that I would argue with, that I would argue for.
Well, look. I'm saying that Carter may be a guy that could get some minutes.
Yeah.
And if you've ever watched Hoosiers, run the picket fence for him. Run the picket fence, let him go out there and get a look, knock down a 3, then get him off the court so he doesn't have to defend some freak athlete.
Yeah.
And let him play. So that's my bench.
My only thing to say about Carter Sabrera is he was the guy that got the M1 to get us to 100 points against Alabama last year.
Yes, he
foul
did.
from J.D. Davidson.
Yes, he did.
So
that's the only thing J.D. Davidson did in that game.
That is very true. That is very true. That's funny. But sorry, we'll just do a brief discussion here because we're getting a little deep on time. But
see, Justin agreed with me, by the way.
Yeah, no, I
think Lior should be getting 5 to 8 minutes a game if he can defend the 2. If he can defend the 2. Man to man.
Problem is, and I know Bruce and Lior both know that he's not going to be able to guard 2s from Alabama, Kentucky, and Tennessee and Arkansas, and because the 2 from Arkansas is about 6'7", he could jump out of the gym. He's a freak athlete.
Runs
he's
like
a freshman.
Yeah.
So
we wanted him.
That's a tough.
Auburn wanted him.
Smith is really good.
But I agree, Lior needs to play some and early to get his legs under him and to see how he meshes, and green light him. Let him shoot. Green light him. We need people that can shoot.
Yeah.
So people won't back into the zones against us. All right. I'm sorry.
So talking a little bit about UAH, obviously this is an exhibition game. This won't count, but I think it's a good, not like preview game for somebody like George Mason, who we play, next Monday, but on Wednesday you get to play UAH in your home arena. And I just kind of, I think you're going to see a little bit of Auburn just going through the motions, trying out a few different lineups. I think UAH does the exact same thing. I think that's a tough get for UAH. I'll tell you that, because I went to the Southern Indiana scrimmage last year, and they played with us for about 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And both Jabari, KD, and Wendell said no.
Yeah.
Nope.
So we're going to be bigger and stronger and faster.
Yeah.
and
They're
can
not a very
jump
big
higher
team.
at every position. They have one guy that's 6'11". They've got a couple kids from Mountain Brook, so that'll be fun for them to get to come and play in Auburn. They got a couple They got a kid from Thompson that's a sophomore. Get him to come play in Auburn. I think it'll be good for him. They've got several kids from the Chattanooga area, so it's a good experience for that team, and they'll play against athletes that they won't see the rest of the year.
Oh no! Well, they better not.
Yeah, so it'll be one of those games where, like we talked about, Bruce can play with his lineups, see who meshes, see who fits, see how we shoot.
Yeah,
because
a big question.
We need to see us make some shots early in the year, so that teams don't just back into a Texas A&M. We're not coming out of the lane
trying to
guard
do that
anybody.
To Janai, not trying to do that to Janai Broom.
We need to make shots so that we can dump it into Janai and let him work the post. Let Dylan work that jump hook that he's developed. And play against them. Again, they're not big. They will probably play well in their division, but they're not designed to do this. This is just a good exhibition game for them to get an experience against guys and get to say they played against Auburn.
Yeah. And let me just say right now, before we end the show, sorry for any of the background noise. This is Auburn, Arkansas week. So this is a huge game. So a lot of people are out here. So,
huge game. I'm sorry. I love Auburn football so much, and it has been so hard. I'm so glad Auburn basketball is back. Y'all, if you're hearing this and on the show, spread this around, because it's time to talk basketball.
No kidding.
And it's time to really talk
Leave
basketball.
Football in the rearview mirror for right now, and let's go talk about some Auburn basketball.
And if you know anybody that owns a business that likes Auburn basketball, we'd be happy to give them a sponsorship opportunity and player of the game or whatever they wanted to do. So
we'll see. But we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. Next week we will review the Auburn exhibition game. An Auburn exhibition game against UAH, and then preview the game against George Mason and some other games, and talk a little about Auburn basketball, just like we do 52 weeks out of the year. Again, share this.
Talking basketball.
Yeah, if you want to find us on Twitter, you can find me at Gray Oldenburg or find him at War Eagle Hoops. You want to find all the amazing stuff at auburndaily.com, just go there, or go to @the Auburn Daily on Twitter. And until next time, War Eagle.
War Eagle.